Hey guys, today on Wreck the World, I'm taking my 63 Buick Riviera, putting all this crap on it, changing up the wheels and tires, and we're gonna go low and slow. Yeah! Welcome to Wreck the World. I'm Eddie. Before I jump in and start working on this Riviera with the air suspension, I do want to note that I know it's been such a long time since I've put out a video. My apologies. I kind of do these, for fun on the weekends, kind of start out here, work on my junk. It's also been forever since I've done any sort of airbag suspension installation. It's one of my favorite things to do. One more thing, I've noticed that there's quite a few new subscribers. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. Enjoy. And let's begin. So step one, I'm gonna pull these wheels off and jack the car up. I guess I'll jack it up first and then pull the wheels off. It'd be a little easier. Okay, so the car is up on jack stands. The wheels are off. I already pulled these big old coil springs out. Get out of here. Whoops. These are my rear airbag brackets. I ordered my kit from BC Fab or BC Fabrication, and I can already tell these are some good brackets. They're all bolted and there's no welding required, and I'll show you how these work real quick. So this is my lower plate. It'll bolt to my lower trailing arm and your airbag. It's got the holes on the bottom. Bam! It's a 2,600 pound airlift Dominator. I've always liked those bags. I've never had any issues with them. Upper cup here basically bolts onto your bag. And this fancy little fella, specifically for this Riviera, bolts into my upper spring pocket with that guy, and then just slips right in there. So it's kind of a retainer to keep the airbag bracket all bolted in place so it doesn't fall out while you're driving, because that sucks. I've been doing a little bit of mock-up with the brackets and the airbags for the rear, and just kind of set everything in there, and then I'll crank up on the rear end, bring it back up to the car to see how much clearance I have. And I noticed that the rear axle's stopping on the rear bump stop, which that's what these are for. But if I remove these, then I get an extra inch of low. And when you're that low to the ground, an inch makes a world of difference. So the other thing that was holding it up was the upper brackets themselves. So I'm gonna remove 1 inch from the top here, and that way I just get an inch lower in the back, because sometimes an inch is all you need. I removed 1 inch from my first bracket, and now I'm gonna do my second bracket here. Safety glasses. Bam, safety first. Here I have a shot of the rear bag installed and fully deflated. It's my emergency brake cable. I'm going to secure it up here to the trailing arm so I have sufficient clearance if you do not want that bag rubbing on anything. Anyways, this is the upper cup here. I removed the 1 inch from the top here, and then this lip right here is the upper bracket that's bolted to the frame of the car. So I'll let it down, that way you can see the pieces kind of individually installed on the car. But I mean, so far so good. So imagine if you were driving around at ride height, this is kind of where you would be as your car goes up and down. Of course there'd be air in that bag, but just beep, 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 beep. Who needs a coil spring, right? And this is all the way down. Of course it wouldn't ride like this, but you can see the upper
kind of how that upper bracket bolts to the frame. There's a stud, a factory stud in the middle there, and it just uses a bolt to secure that to the frame. This guy goes up and slips right on over that. Keeps that sucker in place.
I just put the fittings in top, and they're impossible to get to once they're in the car to check for leaks, so I like to bench test them, put my fitting in, and check them for air. So I'm going to do that now. This thing leaks, but it's not as important. So let's make these things go up. Ooh. Okay. So these are full of air now, so I'm going to spray the fittings just to check, make sure I don't see any bubbles. If you see bubbles, that means you got air. And that is no bueno. Look for micro bubbles, big bubbles, any bubbles. I'm very, very picky when it comes to air leaks. I don't like them. I like to be able to park my car aired up and still have it aired up the next morning when I go out to drive it. Okay, air leak test number 1, successful. I don't see any bubbles. So I think our rear airbag fittings are good. My upper brackets are painted up. I removed 1 inch from the top, as mentioned before. Also, I added these fancy holes right here, because if you look inside that hole, there's the fitting where your airline's gonna go. I could run them through the top, but that would mean I'd have to drill a hole through the car, and I don't want to do that. Rear bags are in. Right now I have it aired up, just so I can move on to the front. After I get the front done, I'll roll it outside and I'll air it out, and we'll check out how low she gets. Onto the front. See that big coil spring right there? I'm gonna pull that guy out and put an airbag in there. There it goes. Almost there. Here's the front bag setup in a nutshell. Basically, my lower A-arm, I will bolt this bracket onto there. There's a nice little hole there for the bag. This is a Slam Specialties SS6 style bag. It's a 2,500 pound rated bag, rated for 250 PSI. I've never ran this kind of bag before, but I've heard good things about it. So we'll give it a shot and see what happens. It's a fairly small diameter, so it should fit in the spring pocket just fine. But basically that bolts to the bottom there. Then the upper cup that came with my kit uses this piece of all thread here, and that goes up into your upper spring pocket. This goes through your factory shock hole and then uses a nut to kind of secure it on there. So that bolts up into the frame, but also has your holes there to bolt it to the bag. Something like that. And voila, there's your front bag setup. So I'm gonna do this exact same thing except in the car. This is the upper spring pocket in the engine compartment. It's kind of hard to get a shot of, but you can see, oops, right here's the stock hole for the shock absorber. That's where that stud comes through for the upper bracket, and it bolts to there. This hole right here, it was a much smaller hole. I think it was just a drain hole. I enlarged it a bit, and that's what I'm going to be running my airline through. Obviously, you don't want your airline to touch bare metal or metal edges, because then, bam, you got an air leak. So what I like to do in a case like this is I'm going to run, basically this is just rubber hose through that hole, and then you can run your airline right through there. So this acts kind of like a grommet, kind of protects it from everything. So that's what I'm going to do now. And sorry, I got distracted. So I'm going to run my airline, and I'm going to install the front airbags. And here's my front bag, all assembled, brackets painted.
I ended up trimming about 2 inches off this stud because when you go to install it, you don't want to sit there threading on a nylock nut forever, so that'll make life a little easier. Here's the bag up inside of the spring pocket, bolted in place. Guys want to make sure you have sufficient clearance. I like about a finger's width or 2 fingers, or at least a finger, so you can slide your finger between the bag and the spring cup there. The only modification needed was a little bit of grinding on the lower control arm, on the lower spring pocket there. That way the lower bag bracket plate can bolt right on there. So I'm going to do that part now and bolt the front bags in and run my airline. The front end is all reassembled and I'm ready to put the wheels back on and put this turd on the ground. Let's see how it looks. Changing up the wheel and tire combo. I'm gonna be running some 14 by 6 inch Supremes. Reversed offset. Oh yeah. Special little treat for the center of the wheels there. Rec Customs Car Club, baby. Yeah. Damn! She is laying on the ground. I mean, this car is literally laying frame now. It can't get any lower than that. So I think this thing looks freaking awesome. I am beyond happy with the way this thing's sitting. I mean, we're literally laying frame. That car is just laid out. So I'm gonna wrap up this video. I'm gonna do all the air management next in the next video. So I have to mount the tank and the valves and wire it and plumb it and all that stuff. So stay tuned for Riviera Part 2 or whatever I'm gonna name it. But it's gonna be a good build because once this thing's done, we gonna go cruising. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you for watching. Bye.